Hi, everybody. Chris Giles here from Real Sales Talk. We're blessed to have Matt Critchell here, Vice President of eCompliance. He's going to talk a little bit about today, about the different types of sales out there, whether you're enterprise sales, corporate sales, or for that matter, SaaS sales. Looking forward to speaking to Matt Critchell today and find out what drives his sales world. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be here.
Well, that's awesome. We're super excited. I'm really proud of your recent promotion to Vice President. It seems like things are moving along well at eCompliance.
Yeah, we're a hyper-growth mode. Things are fast, and it's a fun time to be at eCompliance.
Awesome. Why don't you just take a couple minutes here, Matt, and tell us a little bit about yourself and let the people know, and then we'll get started right here with Real Sales Talk.
For sure. So a little bit about me. Chris mentioned Vice President of Sales at eCompliance. We're a SaaS company downtown Toronto, but that's not where it started for me. Started in commercial sales for a big public company called Canon. I'm sure everyone's familiar with it. Worked from commercial sales to corporate sales to national sales. Then I transitioned from there to another publicly traded company, Element Financial Corp. Started there in sales, then worked myself up to management there. Then, decided at some point or other to make the leap to software and SaaS.
Excellent.
So it's exciting. It's been a journey.
Excellent. And so how we do this, as you well know, we start out with 5 questions. These 5 questions help to define who the person is, we always find. And it helps for those out there to realize that the smallest little things in the world sometimes define us. So my first question to you is, what is a positive word you like or live by?
Yeah, this was a tough one for me. I'd say that probably one of the most important words for me and in SaaS in general is growth. Okay. If you're not growing, you're dying on the vine. So what's extremely important in SaaS and software is obviously growth, as it is in most business as well.
Yeah, and you find the growth is also, it permeates into your personal life as well, right? It's everywhere, right?
For sure. Being a dad and having 2 young kids and watching them grow, growth is all around me every day. So that's whether awesome. I take it home with me or it's at work, growth is important.
Growth's the word. And what would be a negative word you do not like?
I'd say status quo is a negative word for me that kind of rubs me the wrong way. There's so many elements in sales that is difficult. There's so much competition out there, and I hate losing to status quo. And status quo to me means, we're going to keep doing things the way we've always done it. Right. So that means we failed as salespeople. So I hate hearing that word.
Got it. So growth expectations are high. Status quo, we're not going to put up with it.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Excellent. And so a hero in your world that drives you?
Yeah, I'd have to say there's many of them, but if I had to narrow it down to probably the one that I look to and I'm astonished by is Elon Musk. The good, the bad, the ugly with Elon Musk. He's a pretty exciting character to watch and watch his growth.
Yeah.
He's taken some pretty structured industries and turned them on their head.
Yeah.
Companies or industries that are over 100 years old and really change the way that people procure and drive vehicles. So to me, coming from a vehicle background as well, that's someone that I often tune into.
He is remarkable, isn't he? Yeah. You're not the first person to mention him on Real Sales Talk. Isn't that interesting?
Really?
Of all the people in the world, I want to say he's that's the second or third time he's been mentioned.
Interesting.
My son, Connor, also is a huge fan of him. Myself, I'm fascinated by him. I wish we had a little more Elon Musk in the world.
Me too.
What's a dream of yours? What's a dream that Matt Critchell's driving and striving towards?
Yeah, I think a dream for me, cliche or not, maybe a little bit old school, but is mortgage free by the time I'm 40. So, okay. I always attribute success, personal success of being free and fancy free and not being strapped to a bank. So, the sooner I can do that for my family, the more important that'll be for us going forward.
That seems like a reality all around the corner. If that growth keeps up, drop the status quo. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so what's a valuable business lesson that you've picked up with and that you'd like to share with us here that somebody maybe taught you or you've learned or whatever? Yeah,
Chris, you said one of the themes that we're going to talk about today is, being the enterprise or corporate world and going to SaaS. So I think being adaptable to change is critical today. You're seeing sales as an industry change so rapidly. You're seeing the way that buyers buy product change so rapidly. So I think being adaptable to change, taking risks is going to be extremely important. That's the lessons that I've learned and, presidents and leaders have been able to distill down to me and help me with.
Cool. So just to recap, Growth is the word that drives you. The status quo is, of course, not acceptable. I feel the same way. If the status quo is acceptable, then why are we wasting today? It goes with my carpe diem philosophy of let's get her done.
Absolutely.
Elon Musk, I mean, you talk about adaptable. Holy moly, that guy's the epitome of it. So you're following a theme here, it looks like. The idea of taking care of your family is a wonderful dream, and I think it's a reality for you. It looks like you're well on your way to making that happen. I think once you pay off the house, the only problem is you do have a cottage coming.
Absolutely.
They'll hit you up.
I got to pay off the house to get the cottage.
And then you get the university. You got some other things to come, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And then the valuable lesson goes back to, I think, really what you talked about in the growth and status quo and Elon Musk, is that adaptability, which is something that, it's funny as an employer myself, people always ask me for the instructions, and I'm always so nervous to give them the instructions more so than give them the concept. And I think in today's society, we have to really be receptive to the fact that change is inevitable. Look at the SaaS softwares. Look at what's happening with cell phones. Look at what's happening to our world. Change is going to erupt around us here. Wonderful. That tells us a little bit about Matt. Happy to have you, as I mentioned. Let's get into some of the business stuff. As you well know, we talk about some business elements here. I'm going to get you to teach some lessons, hopefully help some of the people out there that are either looking to understand what happens in the world, but also just talking about sales in general. And then we're going to get into the end a little bit of make a difference. So thank you so much again.
Sure.
So let's start off with, one of the key things that I always thought was, what's a key lesson that you follow daily that helps to drive you?
Yeah, I'd say that an old saying that I'll provide here is if you want to run fast, go alone. If you want to run far, go together. So sales as a whole is typically an individual sport per se, but if I look at my team and the most successful salespeople that I've been around, they have a unique ability to get everyone involved, right? And although you're quota bearing as an individual, the more collaborative you can be with your team, whether that's success, whether that's product engineering, development, they have a unique way to get all these people invested in them and engaged in every sales cycle.
Yeah.
So I think earlier in my career, I put my head down and ran through everyone that I could to hit my numbers. But, I slowly started to learn as moving into leadership roles that, you need everyone on the bus to be successful. So
it's so true. It's interesting. What was that? Give me that statement again. 'Cause that's a good one.
yeah, if you want to run fast, go alone. If you want to run far, go together.
And I think, that really makes a lot of sense. That run fast alone, it symbolizes almost selfishness, right? Mm-hmm. And that is the case. Sometimes we have to be a little bit selfish in sales, but whenever you can share, or for that matter, teach other people around you, or for that matter, share the information they've given you and make yourself better, it's so much more effective. As a leader, of course, that's challenging. What are some of the lessons that you've learned teaching people what are some of the best lessons you've learned from some of the teachers you've been taught by? What's some of the things that maybe give us three things that you think somebody's given you over time? Yeah,
I'd say patience is probably one. In my career, if you look back, and not to say that it's the right way, there's many ways to be successful in business, but, patience, trust in the process.
Yeah.
I work with an executive coach that has constantly reinforced, build the plan, work the plan, right? So, put the time up front to make sure that plan is built, and then just focus on working that plan and not deviating too much from it. Obviously, there's going to be times where you have deviation is going to be normal, but really slowing down to speed up. Again, with the theme I just talked about before.
Yeah.
I'd say another one is collaboration as well. Looking at the success my team has and my company has is it's not just a sales game. It's an everyone game. We're all running. So one team, one goal is extremely important in my business, in every business. Yeah. And then again, that patience thing I think that I talked about is going to be ever important. And you mean patience in making sure that you're doing the right things and not panicking, just controlling the environment, getting that collaboration, getting that growth, getting everybody working together. Not just reduce the panic, being the leader, right? Like being that person that can really take charge. For sure.
Excellent. Well, I think these are great lessons, and every time I hear this, I love your one comment: want to run alone or run together. I think that every time I do a podcast like this, there's always something that somebody says. I'm like, that's it. That I own that now, and that's a good one. And I think that too many people don't recognize that the manager of a team has to behave like that, but so does the team too, right? So does the team, because if there's everybody's individual in the team and the manager's got to bring them together, it's just too tough. Mm-hmm. So maybe I always love with this podcast because you get a chance to say thank you to some people. What did the best manager help you to do in your career? What did they do that helped you? And maybe that helps somebody else to do a better job out there. So maybe give some examples if you don't mind as well. A little bit of detail within reason.
Yeah, for sure. So, I've had a lot of people help me along the way, obviously, to help me be successful, from family to friends to colleagues to managers to leaders. I'd say the number one thing that sticks out for me is a previous president of mine really encouraged me to step outside my comfort zone. That I was going to get the best out of myself if I was outside of my comfort zone. It wasn't status quo anymore. So, what he provided the opportunity of was to move my family with my newborn across the country to Alberta. At a very pivotal time in both my wife and our lives, as we just had a 1-month-old, no family, no structure, no support system. But I learned a lot. I went out there in an economic or an oil and gas recession as well. So I learned a lot, not only about myself and my family, but, in business too. And, if I had to do it over, I'd do it again 10 times.
Yeah. So the biggest risk you took turned out to be the greatest reward.
It was, and it really accelerated my career as well. If I stayed status quo in my current environment, I would have maybe taken me 5 years to accelerate to that management or that leadership role, where going out west and taking that leap of faith and that shot really accelerated me to where I am today.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's a great, and I think your manager there did a good job by pushing you a little bit further. And that's our job as people, is to help those around us. So many people, goes back to that status quo. Some people are nervous about change, and they don't realize the change is happening anyways, whether they control it or not. So whether you control it or somebody else's. In that case, that was a big risk for you and your family. There was an easy no there. You could have easily gotten another job. Yeah. And you said, no, I'll do it. And in the end, that was the one. So good message out there for people. Sometimes that most challenging one that you have to think about, and maybe you have to work the family a little bit into, maybe that's the one that accelerates. Great point. One of the things that we talk about always on this situation is sales is tough because people are putting up obstacles. Whether it's, even your kids, as you mentioned, like you got the young kids there, I'm sure they're not wishing to go to bed. No. The obstacles, the objections, they're everywhere. How do you find dealing with objections? How do you deal with them? What's some good lessons out there?
Yeah, I'd say, if I look back at not only my career, but my life in competitive sports, objections are everywhere. They're going to be everywhere your whole life. If you're not strong enough to deal with objections, sales isn't going to be a career for you, because it's left, right, center. It's in your face every day. Objections have made me the man and the professional I am today. You're not fast enough. You're not smart enough. You haven't done this long enough. Those things fuel my fire. So, anyone out there that is facing objections, which everyone will every day, is my advice to them would be, use it as fire starter or fuel, and just run. Use that as motivation, because there's no better motivation than objections.
Yeah, well, I think what they're. I mean, sometimes they're right, and you're able to adjust to the objection, right? Sure. And that teaches you. And I always say, find out whenever there's an objection, find out the root cause, right? And then if the root cause is that there is truly an objection, you need to solve it. And sometimes it's just people being opposition. How do you deal with the person who just says no because they say no because they want to remain status quo? How do you deal with them?
Yeah, I think you have to determine and step back and take a 30,000-foot view. Is it, what's the reasoning or what's the rationale behind the no? Is it that they're having a bad day? Is it that they don't have the authority to make the decision? Is it that the decision that they previously made to purchase that solution, let's say, is on their shoulders? Yeah. So if they say, hey, I need to go back and say, I made a mistake. What's the rationale behind it? So I think if you really take a step back, you include perspective from other people around you, I think that you can turn that objection into a positive for sure.
Now, going back to, we talked about the corporate versus SaaS. Have the objections changed in the SaaS model as opposed to when you're at the corporate world? Are they still the same? Yeah,
I'd say it's consistent. Buyers are much more educated today than they were when I started my career. Yeah. In a lead gen world, most of the buyers are coming inbound, so they've already researched. They know what they're looking for. They've probably even looked at 3 or 4 other solutions. So I'd say, status quo still exists today. Competition still exists, obviously, heavily today. Yeah. There's always going to be cheaper solutions out there. So no, I don't think from a sales perspective that it's changed too much. from an objection perspective.
You just got to continue to work through them. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've heard from you here is that your expectations of the objections are going to be there more so than you're disappointed that they're there. You're like, this is going to happen. That's it. Perfect. How have you worked to improve your selling skills as you've gone through these different situations, improved in management, what have you? How have you improved your selling skills?
Yeah, so I attribute selling skills or sales to almost professional sports, right? If you look at the top athletes in the world, they really get out of it what they put into it. So, you know, the Michael Jordans, the LeBron James, the Sidney Crosbys, I attribute this to time on the rink or in the bullpen or batting practice to almost sales skills, right? So if I swing it around to myself, I'm always learning, whether I'm listening to a podcast or I'm doing something like this or I'm going to a conference, collision or whatever it might be, to try to just be a sponge. Okay. I use mentors as well. I use an executive coach that helps me process and work through things and slow down. I'm always trying to learn. In SaaS especially, there's always a better way of doing it.
Seems like the SaaS is a race to the finish line, and the finish line gets closer almost every day.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the major difference between the corporate world and the SaaS world is, there's process already structured. There's bureaucracy. There's red tape. And in the SaaS world, it's so fast, and you have to be so nimble that if there's a better way to do it, let's wrap it up, let's do it, and let's lock it in and go forward, right? But tomorrow there might be a new way of doing it. So it's just being nimble, I think, is important.
Excellent. And when you're helping your salespeople sell in the SaaS model versus the enterprise model, I guess it's changed again. Is it very similar?
No, I would say, in my specific industry, which is software sales and safety software sales compared to the financial leasing of my previous life, sales cycles are much quicker.
Okay.
Learning or looking at an opportunity and losing fast has become ever more important because of the transactional state of SaaS sales. Noticing when there's an opportunity that might not go anywhere and calling that out quicker and realizing that and then moving on. So, one thing I instruct my team is to lose early. That's a great point, because too many people spend so much time in sales just chasing, and they never find out they're actually going to get somewhere. And I think it's so critical. That's another great point there, Matt. I mean, something's just just in conversation, but win fast, but lose fast too, right? Because there's no use just keep chasing that person who's never going to come through. It creates a false sense of security. Excellent. Sure. What makes we talked about objections. We've talked about the selling is different. What makes an unbeatable salesperson, if is there such a thing, possibly, but what makes a good salesperson, we'll call it an unbeatable salesperson? Yeah, I'd say if I look at the most successful salespeople that I've seen, they're not really salespeople. They're trusted advisors. They're experts in their industry, in their field. They have an unwillingness to lose, so they're hyper competitive people as well. They always want their name at the top of the board. They want to be on the president's trips. They want the president's trophies. They want the rewards and obviously the compensation to go with it. But they don't act like salespeople. They act like consultants almost, right? Yeah. Where they build a relationship and then they're subject matter experts. And I think that's critical. There's just some of these times when we're talking about this stuff, some of the salespeople think that, oh, I'm a good talker. It's like, really, it's the listener, right? And really the idea is that you should have already understood your product. You should now understand what your customer needs and then be able to really assist them in making that adjustment to your product. And that's a great comment, because an unbeatable salesperson is usually developed no different than your Sidney Crosby you mentioned earlier, where he's practiced and he's made sure he understood and he's made mistakes and learned from them. Mm-hmm. So absolutely. It doesn't matter the industry, I don't think. It just matters the person. And I think a little bit of empathy is also really important. For sure. They have to want to do a good job for the person. Yeah. It can't be selfishly done. Perfect. Well, what is Matt Critchell's way of selling? If that's the right way to be unbeatable, how would people describe you when you go out there and sell, or how you manage, or how you ask your people to sell? Is it phone similar? Do you have some additional things you throw in there as well? So I think where I've been successful, and if you ask some of the customers that I work, is probably trustworthy. But I'm also a hard worker. I strive to be the hardest worker in the room all the time. I might not be the smartest person in the room.
It's funny that hard work has existed right since the beginning of time.
Yeah,
people don't understand the hard work is probably one of the most key components.
Yeah, for sure. And the way I instruct it to my team is, sales isn't a 40-hour work week, right? Yeah. So for my advice for people coming into sales and looking at sales as a career would be, if you're looking for a 40-hour work week, government work is probably more suited for them. And government work is extremely important. My father-in-law was in government work for 40 years. But if you're looking for that regimented schedule, it's probably that, not sales, because evenings, weekends, it doesn't matter. Customers never stop. They require service. So again, if I swing it back to myself, what I've been successful with is, rolling up my sleeves and going to work every day and getting in the trenches when I need to, but also elevating as well. But just knowing that my team understands that no matter what it takes, I'll be there. If it's midnight, if it's 1 a.m., they need my help getting a project done.
I think that it's a bit interesting, and I follow my philosophy is I believe sales is front loaded too, right? Like if you do a really good job at the very beginning when you start your career, then it becomes easier to do as you go forward. Mm-hmm. And that hard work you talk about is really you just executing upon the ideas.
For sure.
And it doesn't get easier if you start out slow. It gets harder, I think. I often see whenever I hire people or I'm dealing with people, I often say, listen, this is the time, that first 6 months, this is when you're going to learn the most and gain the most. So put all the energy. For all the young people out there that are getting started in sales, make sure when you have that sales opportunity, whatever the job, even if you don't like the particular job, do everything you can to invest, to learn as much as you can about selling and your product in the first 6 months. The rest will follow. Excellent. And maybe in terms of this, what do you like about sales? What do you like about it? Because I love it. What do you like about it?
Yeah, I love the opportunity of sales. Every business needs sales. Every business revolves around sales. Yeah. It helps keep the lights on. It helps keep the staff paid. Yeah. It's critical to growth. I love helping customers achieve their desired outcome, right? That we have all these different buyers that are, selfishly, they have different motivations, right? They want to excel in their career. Well, we were a part of that and help them get there, right? So I love the opportunity that sales brings. So whether you start in sales and you want to go into operations or, potentially want to go into finance, if you have that sales background, it's a good structure to elevate you into pretty much any department in an organization.
It's funny. I heard from a young guy yesterday. And he was saying that initially when he started sales, he found it to be a grind. He was doing the business development rep. It was a grind. But as he describes it now, he says, I've got it so figured out, it's no longer a grind. It's the practice, right? And I think one of the things that I love about sales, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, is I always feel that whenever I'm trying to hire people or teach people that even though I'm going to get you to do the work and I need you to do this stuff, the stuff that I'm going to teach you is actually going to impact your life. And I think that many jobs don't impact their life other than putting money on the table. Whereas sales is one of those jobs that really changes the way you can work your life. Mm-hmm. How do you use sales in your personal life?
So if you ask my son, he's 3 years old, but I swear he's a professional negotiator. So, I have to negotiate.
What's your son's name?
Griffin.
And what's your daughter's name?
Elliot.
Yeah, why don't you say hello to him right now?
Yeah. Hi, guys. Daddy's working.
Yeah.
But if I swung it around to my kids, I go home and I negotiate. So I negotiate at work and then I negotiate at home as well. And
tougher negotiations at home, I'll bet.
Absolutely, I negotiate $100,000 contracts every day. But it's amazing to see what I have to do at home and how many times I lose on a daily basis. Yeah. So you get positive when you're at work and then you come home and you're defeated. But at least
Griffin's got you.
Yeah, at least they love you, and
that's
so
great.
It's exciting. But
I think that's one of the it's funny. I always say to people, sales is like getting a table at a restaurant when they say they're full. Sales is getting yourself out of trouble, whatever. Sales is everywhere. Sales is everywhere in every part of life. It just so happens we do it for our career. Some people just do it once in a while. Excellent. What do you not like about sales? Because a lot of people are, you often hear, I don't like salespeople. I don't like sales. I don't want to do sales. They're fearful of this. What do you not like about sales? Or is there something you don't like?
I would say the persona that salespeople get is tough because, if you're sales is built around networking, cold calling. Some people say that cold calling is dead. It never will be. But when you're chasing people down and you're trying to educate them around who you are and what you do, there's always a negative connotation. But if you swing it back to, would they treat their own salespeople like that at their own company, right? I think it puts things into perspective. So knowing that sales is a function at their own company and it has to go out to make them successful, I would say that's an important one. How sales in most cases is dependent on economic conditions is
Right.
tough. So I learned that, that hard lesson moving out to Alberta in the oil and gas recession of 2015, 16. Still to today, it's still going on. So it's heavily dependent on that. So it's tough, right? You learn a lot about yourself. You have to get creative in tougher conditions when everything tightens up.
Yep.
People don't want to spend money, right? They're losing
Can't
their
afford
jobs.
it, maybe. Yeah.
And we're out there trying to sell our souls essentially to say, hey, you need our product when people are losing their jobs is tough. That's a tough pill to swallow.
It makes it somewhat personal sometimes, doesn't it? Right? And they don't realize at times that it's really not personal. This is what we do for a living. It's funny whenever I'm selling and I meet a negative person. I had one the other day. I sent an email out and he's like, I'm not interested in your product. And I'm like, okay, no problem. I'd like you to keep us in your database. And at some point in time, there could be an opportunity for us to speak and, be able to communicate. And it's funny how he was very aggressively, I would describe it almost fearfully running away from me as the initial stage. And in the end, when I sent back the message saying, "Oh, I completely understand," and if you had you said anything differently, I'd have been happy to receive that as well. But when I sent him back the second message saying, "No problem, I respect that. I would like you to keep my database, and I may follow up in 6 months," his response was, "Oh, thank you." In other words, that the pain was not going to continue. And I think for salespeople out there, they need to realize, going back to what you said earlier about lose quickly, is to make sure you target correctly when you're calling the people, to make sure when you do call them, you respectfully understand what they're dealing with, and for that matter then, and more importantly, have that empathy to make sure you're taking care of it. Because too many people that don't like sales don't like it because they're batting zeros instead of hitting home runs. So great comments. I appreciate those. In terms of, we've talked about it, and we talked about when we started that the enterprise model of sales and then the SaaS model of sales. Where is sales going? How has it changed? What's going to happen? What do you see happening here?
So taking it back, when I started in sales, CRMs were not near what they are today.
Right.
Salesforce was something that was coming on and it was getting traction, but looking at my team, they don't come out of a CRM today, right? And now what we're doing is we're starting to layer on sales enablement and sales optimization tools. And it's really just making sales folks more productive. So I think that's going to be ever more prevalent go forward.
Yep.
The sales lofts of the world are great tools to just make their job easier.
It's a great
right?
product, sales loft. Yeah.
It's taking the thought process out and just making sure it's more structure added to it. And it's really an enablement tool that we love. So, I think artificial intelligence is going to become more and more prevalent as well. I think if you don't have AI built into your company, you probably won't be a company for very long. I think letting the data speak is going to be extremely important. Data-driven decisions, let the data talk to make the decision now. Go forward is going to be important as well.
It's interesting. I have lots of experience in business, but I'm finding it fascinating now how much sales has changed in this day and age, because really what I've found, the most important thing that I've found as we've gone forward is that when I was in sales, it tended to be when I started 35, 40 years ago in sales, it seemed to be the good talker was the guy who got the sales job. And it's been great to see these wonderful, intelligent people from the technology field coming in and making some adjustments and helping us. Sales Loft or the different methods to be able to grow your lead database company like Growth Genius that helps you go out there and help to build those situations. Then on top of that, you got other companies that are I use Vidyard as a product that helps to do things. So I find some of these tools are remarkable. Maybe we'll just, if you don't mind, just stay on that. Maybe talk about some of the tools you use and how you use them, and that can help other people out there that are trying to build their sales pipeline, their sales profile.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, from a tech stack at our company, we're using Marketo as a marketing automation tool. We use Salesforce as a CRM. We've just layered on SalesLoft. Lead IQ we use. Calendly we use to book time right in an email.
What's Lead IQ? I don't know that one.
Lead IQ is basically it's a lead generation. So we'll get a bunch of companies that have all their data filled out that we can start marketing to.
Excellent. Kind of like a Hoovers of sorts.
Yeah, a D&B, something like that as well. So what we're looking at next is really data enrichment tools. So whether that's Ringlead or Zoom Info, things like that, just to make sure our data is scrubbed and clean. And again, what we're doing there is just making sure we're using the most out of our BDR and sales team time. We don't want them making bad calls or bad data. We really want to clean that up. So that's really what we're focused on next.
And with eCompliance, let's talk a little bit about your company and what you're doing. What does eCompliance do for its customers?
Yeah, so we're a health and safety platform. We have a mobile-first application. So we target our ICP, which is ideal customer profile, is really anything in a hazardous industry. So construction, oil and gas, mining, utilities, and manufacturing. So we really want frontline adoption. So we want people that are on a job site, in the field, in the mine, using our app to notify and be able to document, a hazard, a near miss, an incident, things like that. So, in previous, where it's still paper and pen is prevalent in our industry, we really want
the incident report, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah. We really want folks being able to use that on the front lines. That senior management knows about that, so the frontline folks have a voice right away. It doesn't get written on a piece of paper, thrown in the bed of a truck, or thrown in the floor of a truck, and then a week later it gets reported. Our mission as a company is to eliminate 1 million workplace incidents by 2020.
Excellent.
We're about 600,000 in, so we're well on our way to achieve that goal. And just one more thing is when I made the decision to go to eCompliance, it's because of the story, right? It's because of what we're doing.
That's a critical one, folks. What Matt's applying here, and I'll let you continue, I apologize, is make sure you believe in the company. It makes it a lot easier to sell, doesn't it? Please continue, I apologize.
Yeah, for sure. And, when I get to go home at night and tell my kids that daddy helped to save a mom and a dad, or a brother and a sister go home safe after their work day, is extremely important to me, and I love our story, and I'm passionate about our story.
That's excellent. Yeah, I think it's really critical. I think in this day and age, here at the company, at the factory, we do recruiting and training, so we see either the person get a job, or if that matter, we help them train and become more effective, and to make a big difference in a person's life. I've worked in some of those industries. As summer jobs or whatever. I remember working at a bricklaying job and scaffolding. I'm afraid of heights. I only got the job. I was great the first couple of days when we were on the low level. Time I hit the third level, the scaffolding, I had to quit because I was so scared. But that scaffolding was moving like it was like shaking, going back and forth. You were carrying the bricks, and I got to think that was my experience for about 3 or 4 weeks of working in that one environment. The level of danger that I felt in that one situation must exist for those people all the time. And so therefore, be able to create that environment to get the message to the top people right away that are insulated from it in some ivory tower is really wonderful. And with your competitors or with your people that are facing us, what's the customer's reception to your product? Because it sounds evolutionary, maybe more so than revolutionary, but what's the customer's reception to the product, and how does that go?
Yeah, so obviously our market, like most markets, is very competitive. It seems that there's new applications popping up daily that do it for a fraction of the cost we do. But again, where we sink our hooks in is that storytelling, right? Is where we've come from, where we're going. Yeah, that workforce participation is critical. They love our product. 30% of the business we do is from referrals, right? 20 to 30% annually is from referrals. So that's word of mouth. People telling other people that, hey, you need to get on the eCompliance platform. What these guys and gals are doing is really great. Yeah. Or it's someone that left a company that was using our product to a new company and takes our product with them.
For the salespeople out there, don't underestimate what Matt just said there. That is an absolute thing. Build a relationship with the person and the company. In fact, I always used to do is I used to try and build a relationship with as many people in the organization. And I always left a positive impression on those people because you never know where they're going to be. That was your lead database. Why not? They're already warm, so let's get them even hotter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. And I think it's, in this day and age, to be able to, I would describe it, have that intrinsic value where you're creating value for your employees, you're creating, revenue for the company, and you're helping employ people. But on top of that, to be able to then, I would describe change the future, right? Because you're therefore eliminating those accidents, eliminating those problems. And, I've never had a tragedy, I would say, happen in my world, but I've had some challenges in the workplace. We had some issues, people got injured or whatever. And it would have been nice to be able to have something in there that would have done. That's great stuff. In terms of your career, I always like to highlight some people as well. Is there anybody in your career you'd like to highlight that really made a huge impact on you? Some specific person? Maybe just give them a shout out. This is always fun on this podcast.
Yeah, I'd say I've already mentioned him. I haven't mentioned him by name, but Sebastian Blondin, who was my previous president at Element, really accelerated my career, really gave me an opportunity to step outside my comfort zone. So, a huge thanks. He knows it. But
it's wonderful. I asked that because in so many ways, the Make a Difference movement's, of course, what I'm all about. It's all about making a difference. And I'm quite certain the people that you're working around right now, you're probably making a difference for them. And I think it's so critical, both as an employee, for sure as a manager, that you are responsible for the activities of your people in terms of their KPIs, yes, in terms of the results, but I think you have to make their lives better. So, and Sebastian, and I guess all the people that have been around you all the way along, thank you for what you've done for Matty. It seems to have made a real big difference for him. That's awesome. As far as eCompliance and where it's going, what do you see happening in the Canadian SaaS marketplace here? Because we seem to be growing and improving. It was always, what do you call it? Silicon Valley, and now we got a little something going on here in Waterloo and Toronto. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'd say with eCompliance in particular, one thing that our CEO Adrian Bartha and founder, and then our director of marketing Nima has done really well is create a community. So we call it the safety nerd community. So one thing that's really neat about the safety industry is that it's not competitive, right? So people share best practices.
Yeah,
they want other people to know, hey, this is what we did, this is what we learned. And they're willing to share, which is why we really created this community. It was meant for sharing. So, the adoption we've had and the interest we've had in this has been remarkable. As a business, we hope that community will drive future business as well and make us more of that thought leader. That's really one thing that we pride ourselves on, is being a thought leader in our industry.
Is that with the white papers and the posts and stuff like that, Matt?
Yeah. So you'll see us release a lot of content, rich content, as Nima would call it. We release that out to the market via different channels, whether that's email campaigns or LinkedIn, things like that. So the SaaS business is going to continue to change. It's going to continue to evolve. Pretty proud that we get to live in this Toronto marketplace that's becoming a hub for tech. You saw Collision here, which was pretty exciting. I know you attended that as well.
Yeah.
But it's going to change. It's going to get faster. It's going to get more nimble. I think product-led business is going to become ever more prevalent, where you're getting leads out of your product. One thing we do as well is we have a short demo on our website as well of our product that companies can come and see. So I do think that that'll become more.
Yeah, I think Canada's really set up really well for technology because just our nature. Kind, good people. We're well known in the world for that. I'll speak for I believe that's what our Canadian image is. And I think what SaaS really is, and what I love about this new generation, is that they're solving problems that have existed forever. Like the tech, I was old enough to remember when the first cell phone came out. I got one for my wedding present, was a brick cell phone. And my father before that had a bag cell phone. It was like $1,500 a month just to have the phone. And now we sit today, of course, you can run your whole world. Your product's off the phone, ours is everything's off the phone. So where are we going? I don't know, and I'm proud that Canada's done that. That was a good move. We got some smart people here in Canada. I think Toronto, I deal with some companies in Waterloo as well. Waterloo's got that nice hub. Mm-hmm. I think we're off. I'm sure Vancouver probably has something as well. I bet you it's all over the country. For Excellent. Sure. I guess maybe I always like, how do you feel about your customer? Give me one word you'd say how you feel about your customer. And has it changed per industry, or is it just one word how you feel about them?
So I'd say from my previous industry to this industry is loyal. Cool. In safety, it's a different industry as a whole. I think that it's very relationship based still, unlike a lot of other industries where it's more economic or financial based. They still want to know that you are that subject matter expert. In safety, you're dealing with VPs of safety or directors of safety that have probably been in role for 20 to 40 years, right?
Yeah.
So they know this like the back of their hand. So they want to know that,
and it's critical for them too, right?
Yeah.
If the mistake goes on, they're dealing with a major tragedy.
Yeah, for sure, and it's emotional, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're investing in not only our product but us as a sales team as well. So there's a lot on the line, right? A lot of people's necks are on the line. They're recommending an expensive annual recurring cost. So it's pretty exciting to be able to build those hopefully forever relationships with our customers and our partners.
And the loyalty comes from the fact that you want to be accountable to them.
For sure.
Yeah, you want to make sure you're there for them.
Yeah,
Excellent. Excellent. This has been awesome, first of all. The biggest thing about sales, I find, is that for the young people out there or for the people that maybe are trying to figure out if sales works for them or if they're scared of it, I think there's nothing to fear about sales. That loyalty, the things you spoke about, growth, these are what drives the world. What would you say to somebody out there that says they don't like sales or afraid of sales? How would you convince them otherwise?
Sales isn't personal. There's a lot at stake on both sides of the fence.
Not personal, I like it.
Yeah. So from the sales individual's perspective, as you're negotiating on terms that are best for you and for your company, your prospect is negotiating on terms that are best for him or her and their company. And it might get heated at times. They might tell you to get lost, and they don't want your services, but it's not personal. They're just making the best decision with the best resources they have. And again,
you didn't displace the right information to them.
For sure. And you learn from that. You learn more from your losses than you do your wins.
Yeah.
And it's really important to decode that, right? Start to make sense of why you're losing and why you're winning.
Yeah.
And then relay that to the company so everyone can get better. That's something that we're strongly focused on right now is trying to decode the losses and why we lose and how fast we lose and what can we do about it and who can we engage to make sure it doesn't happen twice.
So for the people out there that you're saying that don't take it personally, but more importantly, engage in the process and learn the communication, learn the skills, and you'll learn a valuable tool. And maybe what's a lesson you'd say for the purchaser? What would you say how to deal with that? Because you're a professional salesperson. How would you recommend the purchaser? Because they get frustrated. Because some salespeople are not maybe as clever or as good, and they're frustrated or whatever. So how are you going to ask them to deal with it?
Yeah, I'd say from the buyer's perspective, just be honest. It's critical to be honest with sales folks. Let us down. You don't need to let us down easy. Let us lose early. If you don't intend to go forward with our product or our company, that's fine. You're entitled to that. Just let us know so that we're not chasing you, leaving 16 voicemails, 22 emails, LinkedIn messages. A stalking game isn't fun. So let us know that we're no longer in the running and we move on to the next.
Correct. And possibly the why too, right? Give me the why so I can learn from it. Absolutely. And what would be based on everything you've told me here today, I love your advice, and your advice is simple. It's just stay consistent, be loyal, work hard, growth. These are all there's nothing flashy. It's just really consistent. What's a message that you give to the young people out there in the world that are getting started right now? Recent graduates, people that are just getting their wheels beneath them. What would you give some advice to them?
Don't be afraid to try everything. In anything you do try, invest everything you got in it at every stage. If you're going to start as a recent grad, you're going to go into a BDR role or an SDR role, which is a business development representative. Give it everything you got and trust the process. Don't jump for $2,000 or $3,000 to the next company because you haven't completed your tour of duty yet. And if you want any advice of what I've been successful with is completing my tour of duty before I move on to the next.
I think that's can we just stay on that for a second? What is a tour of duty? Because for some of these people are shifting on a minute by minute basis, not realizing that in the long term doesn't fare well, does it?
No, it doesn't. And, I'd have to give credit to my CEO, Adrian, for the tour of duty comment. I didn't come up with that on my own. Okay.
Thank you, Adrian.
Yeah. What it means is trust the process. Again, build a plan, work the plan, right? Don't sell out before you've completed what you need to complete. Yeah, times are going to get tough and you're going to hit roadblocks and you're going to bang your head against the wall. And the numbers and the results might not be there, but if you're putting the work in, your employer isn't going to be worried about it. If they see that you're coming to work every day, you're grinding, you're doing everything you need to do, it will shift. Sales is a luck game too, right? It's a timing game. It's a luck game as well.
Put in the right amount of time.
Yeah, and things will turn around. So trust that process. Be loyal to your employer. Obviously, selfishly, you need to look after you first, but complete that tour of duty so you can move on with conviction to the next role.
And moving up.
Yeah.
Continue to move. Excellent.
Exactly.
We're going to move towards the make a difference moments, parts of the elements. Would I be able to ask you some questions?
Sure.
Who is a person in your world or your family that has inspired you in terms of your work world?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'd have to probably, in my personal world, probably my mom.
What's mom's name?
Debbie. So, hey, Mom. But I came from parents that were divorced at a young age, and my mom basically raised me. My dad was always involved, and my dad's a great dad. Hi, Dad. But she's been remarkable. My whole life, she's been instrumental to my success and to who I am today. And I look at, although my mom is really important, my dad is also equally important in just how hard he works too.
Yeah.
They've taught me everything I know. They've always been in my corner, whether it was at a hockey game in the dead of winter. They never gave up on me and always wanted to push me to be better. They still do today. I get a promotion and they're congratulatory, obviously, but what's next and what's your next goal and how are you going to achieve that?
Yeah.
And it's just really helped me be a better parent for my kids too.
Cool. And who made a difference for you in your world? And maybe personal and professional. You can do both, or you can do one or the other.
Who made a difference in my world?
What did they do so they can understand? Because people don't understand how the smallest little thing can make a difference. And this is why I really focus on this one a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say probably my current CEO, Adrian. He took a shot on me. I didn't come from a tech world. I didn't come from the startup world. I came from the big, bulky, organizations. He saw something in me and gave me a shot to enter this space. So, obviously I'm thankful for that.
Thank you, Adrian.
It's really helped propel me to the next stage and ultimately getting to the rise to the VP, which I'm pretty proud about. And that's exciting for me.
Yeah. What does the title mean? What does that mean to you?
So it doesn't really mean a lot. My day-to-day doesn't change too much.
Yeah.
I think I was doing a lot of what a VP does already, but it's validation for me. It's validation that it's not like at my company someone left and then I got inserted into this role. This role was created for me, right?
Great.
So
you've earned it.
Yeah.
Tour of duty.
Yeah, and I completed my tour of duty as a director and got to accelerate. But what that means to not only me, to everyone else, though, is everyone else around me gets to elevate now, right? So now I get to elevate my team to come chase after me again and help them progress to the next stage of their career, which is pretty exciting.
Excellent. What is something you're doing personally to make a difference, or for that matter, professionally? What is some things that you're doing? Because of course, Adrian's obviously done this for you. How are you repaying it to the world?
Yeah, so what I look to do is try to be a mentor to people that I've met along the way. So whether they want to bounce ideas off me, they've hit a roadblock, they need some career advice. I'll give you a recent example. I just had someone resign from my company, and I take that personal because they were on my team, but I also wanted them to do what's best for them. So I said, hey, you know what? Although I'm sour about this right now, when you move on, I want you to come back to me and bounce things off me and let me know what you're struggling with and how can I help you elevate and let you know some of the corners that I've been in and how I navigated out of them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point he said there about being sour. And I don't mean to be mean to the person who left, but it's the fact that, you mentioned it wasn't personal, but it is, because you're taking that, in order to get that growth, in order to do those things, you've got to invest. And so when it goes wrong, you probably took the moment to take a look at that root cause, right? And said, what can I have done differently, right? And I'm sure you asked that of the question, right?
For sure. And it's an open wound right now, right? It's so fresh. But, there will be a time where I'll reflect on that. And my company's good about exit interviews and all that. So there'll be some self-reflection that I'll do as a leader and, get better the next time.
Excellent. What is something that people out there that you think that you've seen or done or whatever that people can do to make a difference? Something that's made a difference either for you or you've seen it make a difference. What are some actions? I always pushing this and prodding people to do more and more because it makes a difference for people. What are some things maybe Matt Critchell give some advice to people out there for?
Yeah, and Chris, I'll swing it back to some of the things that you do with the MAD movement and the Make a Difference movement. It's remarkable. It's refreshing. The amount of that you lean in and help people is inspiring. It inspires me all the time. One thing I think people can do is give back, right? Pay it forward. Somewhere along your journey, there will be someone that has helped you propel and excel. So don't be shy to give back because it's going to help the next generation of young leaders or young employees, make a difference as well.
As we sit here today, it's been an awesome discussion with you, Matt. I've really enjoyed it. And I really noticed that your empathetic nature has allowed you to therefore see the other person. I didn't hear you very often throughout this message. I often heard you talk about the other person that impacted you or the way you needed to do better for that employee, maybe as far as you were concerned. And I think those are the messages that I think that I'd really like to resonate. It's not so much what Matt said, it's maybe the way he said it. That I think in what's most important in today's world is that I always say you take down the mirror and put up the window so you can see what the other person's going through. You can always take care of yourself. You can always step back, take care of yourself, but that's fantastic. I think one of the things that I'd like to sort of close on is business in life, work-life balance. How are you managing that?
So yeah, I'll swing it to me. I live out in the country. I work downtown every day. So my commute is 3 hours a day, which
hour and a half a day.
Yeah, hour and a half each way. Yeah,
hour and a half each way.
Yeah. So I'm fully committed to obviously making a difference in my company and in the safety industry. But work-life balance is the most important. One thing that I'll do when I onboard new sales members is I walk them through the culture and what I expect and kind of what we're building. And one of the last slides that I have is a picture of family, right? And it's not my family. It's just a generic Google family.
Yeah.
But again, what I described there is that if you can't make it work at home, you'll never make it work at work because if the stress of home life is mounting, you're not going to perform. So take care of the ones that ultimately take care of you. Because that is the most important thing to me with all my employees. And if you asked any one of them, work-life balance is the most important thing to me. I love my family. I love my kids. I love my wife. I want to do well for them. Not for me, for them. I want them to be proud and say, Dad, you're doing it all.
Again, the mirrors are down, up goes the window. Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah. It's been phenomenal having you sit here and talk to us a little bit today. And we've heard through real sales talk that in many ways, I think I'm just going to recap, if it's okay. I'd like you to jump in here. Let's try and share. This whole idea is that people will listen to this, and these are probably the key moments. I heard growth because it's required. I heard the status quo, which makes no sense. The status quo doesn't make any sense. Like, who wants that? Like, nobody really wants it. I heard that the people impacted you didn't really specifically do anything, but rather just invested with you, right? They asked you to invest, and then when they invested with you, it made a big difference. Is there anything else that you'd like to say out there that just to finish up on the real sales talk to say, this is what's made me, and this is what I'm going to recommend you're going to do? Finish up with a conclusion statement by Matt Critchell.
Yeah, I think the most important thing that people did for me was just give me the runway, right?
Excellent
just let me run. Don't put handcuffs on me. Guide me in important times, but let me do what I do best, and then let me distill that down on my team and try to empower them to do what they do best. It's probably been some of the best advice that I've had. And again, my way of being successful isn't everyone's way. Nope. There's no right equation to being successful or, a rise
success
to a VP.
Success is measured by different people, obviously.
Yeah, and there's so many different factors that people even determine success. Some people determine success of, being home at 5:00 with their kids every night, and that's important. But the most important thing to me is, trust the process, build the plan, work the plan. And I think you won't regret those words if you can do that on a daily basis.
Well, my friends, we've been blessed to have Matt Critchell here from eCompliance. He's told us a little bit about what he does for a living, told us a little bit about his family, his beautiful children, told us about some people that have impacted his life. He's told about how he made a difference. But I think most importantly, what we heard here today was a lot of information that makes it, sales is actually really come down to just living it correctly, being empathetic and doing a good job for people. And so real sales talk comes back to the same thing. It's all just real. Mm-hmm. And so I would like to thank Matt Critchell for coming in here today and sharing us your wisdom, your time, as well as helping some of the people out there become more successful. Thank you so much.
Chris, thanks very much for having me. Appreciate it.
This is Real Sales Talk. We'll see you next time. Have a good day, my friends.